Hey! This one took me long enough. If you didn't know or you weren't following the channel for the last few weeks, my controller went to heaven and I had to get a new one. He will be missed and remembered and will forever live in our hearts. But because of that, I ended up taking a break from Twisted Metal games because playing it on mouse and keyboard would probably not be the best experience. But here we are again. You guys wanted me to make sure that I played the PS2 version of this game, so it's the one I got. However, you will probably notice that the quality on the gameplay isn't on par with the other videos. TLDR is I couldn't render the game in hardware mode because it was making the cutscenes flash non-stop, and I don't want anyone having seizures, so I played it in software mode, but that renders the game in the original PS2 resolution. Oh, and the cutscenes also play like this. I don't know why, but I'll fix it for you. No need to thank me. First thing you see when turning on this game is a menu where you can choose between Twisted Metal Head-On and Twisted Metal Lost. I believe most of us already know the story behind Lost, but if you don't know, hold on to your chair because it's gonna be a spooky story. They say that in 2003 they began working on Twisted Metal Harbor City, the sequel to Twisted Metal Black, the award-winning million-selling game, aka the best game ever made according to us, and that sadly only a few people were able to experience that. The reason for that being that on March 13, 2005, 6 key members of the team were killed in a plane crash, and because of that tragic event, the game was cancelled. 2 years later, on the exact same day, the lights started flickering on and off. Then, the phone started ringing, but there was nobody there. And finally, the hash-slinging slasher arrived. Wait, that's the wrong story. 2 years later, on the exact same day, a note arrived at the Sony offices. The note pleaded with Sony to allow the public to play the last work of the deceased team members. And the note was signed with the same names of the 6 deceased members. After months of debating the origin of the note, they believed it to be a joke in poor taste. However, it was decided that they would release what they had, in honor of the fallen teammates. And this is what we have here, on this home terrific 4 gigabytes file that I downloaded from the internet. I bought on the internet. But of course, you can only see the note left by the developers if you finish the game, and you can only see the final part of the note if you finish the game on hard difficulty, which is the scariest difficulty. We're gonna start with Twisted Metal Head-On though. Released first on the PSP, it follows the story of the original 2 Twisted Metal games, completely ignoring 3 and 4, and because of all that, some may call it the real Twisted Metal 3. The game has basically the same main story as the original 2, with Calypso holding the Twisted Metal tournament, promising to grant any wish the winner may ask. However, Calypso is now bald. Thankfully, you can easily check the character's bios again without having to select a character and watch a full cutscene just to find it boring. I know this might not be the most popular take, but I'd rather have text on these than a full cutscene like in Black. The thing that got me hooked into these games was the small stories that they made, and while I still like the cutscenes on Black, it felt boring having to go through each one of them. Pause the game, go back to the menu, wait for it to load, just so I could pick another character to see their story. Sweet Tooth's bio seems pretty close to the one on Twisted Metal 4, where he wants to take over the Twisted Metal contest for himself. They also confirmed that the driver of Roadkill, Marcus Kane, is really the split personality of Sweet Tooth. So I guess they kind of killed the mystery behind that.
Welcome back to Twisted Metal. I am Calypso. The entire planet is your battleground. Your prize, one wish. Let the games begin!
Holy crap. You cannot tell me that's not some of the coolest, if not the coolest intro on this series. The first thing I noticed in this game is that it plays a lot like Twisted Metal Black with some changes. The graphics look pretty good for a PSP game and everything is way more colorful. Basically the same way TM2 was. They kept things like being able to see the selected weapon on the car before you fire it, which I still think is really cool, but one thing that I found weird is these particles on the car when they explode. But I think that's only a bug with the emulator because we will see that again soon. You get 11 levels, some you've already seen in older games like Paris, which was really cool to go back to, and they all take place in different parts of the world. Some of them kind of proved to me something that I was already suspicious of. Did you notice anything in this level? No? What about now? I might be wrong in this, but I will be impressed if this game wasn't made in the exact same engine as Twisted Metal Black. The feeling of this game is the exact same as TM Black with some small changes. Like, for example, some people mentioned they felt like Black was too floaty, and if that was your problem, this might be the game for you, because that was fixed. Some people didn't like how edgy the game was, also fixed. It seems to be a game made for the people who weren't fan of the direction Black was taking, which is understandable. Thankfully, I really enjoyed this, but it does have some things that I wasn't that much of a fan of. They added some weird minigames that you can enter in the middle of the gameplay, and the way you enter these minigames is by going over these things that look exactly like the teleporters. The reason I don't like that is that it puts a stop in the middle of the gameplay. You're there fighting for your prize, destroying your opponents, and then blam, top-down tank shooter. I also talked about how on Black, I felt like the difficulty sometimes felt kind of forced, like the opponents refused to shoot each other and only focused on you, and I kind of miss that now, and I don't consider myself good at these games. This is my first time playing each of them, and I was able to just breeze through this one. The opponents are constantly running away from you and you can just spam attacks on them over and over again. The music is kind of like in Black, but I don't think it fits as well as Black did. The only actual song it has is Disaster Proof by Level, with the rest being a composed soundtrack for each level. I guess it's simply my expectations of wanting a heavy metal soundtrack for it, but I wasn't that much of a fan of this one. You see how cool that was? And this is the song that plays during the fight. But yeah, Darktooth is back in this one, apparently driven by Marcus Kane and Needles Kane, not his father anymore like in TM2. But if that's the case, how is Needle driving Sweet Tooth? You know what? Whatever. After you beat him, an ice cream shop becomes alive and is also driven by Needles and Marcus. I have no idea what is going on. After a long fight where the tower keeps going back and forth on the wall, you finally get a cutscene where Needles asks to become Calypso, and to Calypso to become him. After changing bodies, Calypso tells the guards to finish the intruder, to which they do. And that's it. The endings are back to their glory, having a twisted ending of whatever the characters really wanted. Shadow's ending is kind of dumb. It has Calypso reading him a bedtime story, but besides that, they're all fine. Overall, I think it's a great game that has some hiccups in between, but it shouldn't be overlooked, especially if you're a fan of the old Twisted Metal games, especially 2. And now for the other half of this game, take the children off the living room, it is time for Twisted Metal Lost. This is clearly an unfinished build of the game, with only the bones of the game being in place. They just got the content that they had for Twisted Metal Harbor City and threw in this one. The menus are the same as Head-On and the characters are presented in the same way. Static pictures and a text telling their story, which isn't much besides what they already wanted in Black. As you can see, the game looks just like Black. I'm not sure how far they went into the development of Harbor City, but it really seems like they just reused assets from Black to make this. The gameplay feels basically the same as in Head-On, which feels basically the same as in Black. So I guess we went full circle here. The maps definitely look bigger, and it seems like that's what they were going for. Look, I got something special for you. Hold on. Here! This is a 2005 build of Twisted Metal Harbor City. It's pretty bare bones and has basically nothing in it besides things from Black and this new level that is on a mall. And after driving around a little bit, you'll notice that the level is way bigger than what we're used to. And from what I understand, they wanted to make various maps inside one bigger map, kinda like Tony Hawk's American Wasteland did, where you have a big hallway for the next map to load while you're driving. But as soon as I got there was no map. So I believe the build I got was pretty early. There are videos on YouTube of a version from last year, I believe, so if you're interested in that, go check it out. But back to Lost, there's only 4 levels and one unused level that is apparently pretty buggy and only available via hacking, but I didn't know how to do that. I assume the levels are simply parts of the open world map from Harbor City, just cut and changed to be 4 different levels to fit into this game and played the classic way we're used to. The game was also supposed to have sections where you would be on foot, and they added parts of it to this game. It's extremely basic too. You can go around as Sweet Tooth collecting facts about the game's development, but there's really nothing to do besides that. It's cool that they added it to the game, but trust me, it looks cooler than it actually is. Oh, and after beating the game on the hard difficulty, you get the letter from the supposed developers of the game. And it's a hidden message, which reads, "The truth lies on the greenery of Paris. To the left, the truth is revealed. This is why we have come back, to let you know what awaits." Long story short, this hints into the interviews that are on the disc, that has some flashes of numbers that corresponds to the alphabet, and it all translates to Twisted Metal is coming on PS3. So yeah, the whole thing was basically made to promote Twisted Metal 2012. Well, this was underwhelming. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest, like some of the devs to come out of the TV and take my soul away with them. But holy crap, not even a trailer for it? It was a fun ride for sure, but if you're watching this, the mystery is gone, and all you got now is the PSP game. But yeah, I think Head-On is definitely one of the best games of the series for me. The gameplay and the art style feel way more like the second game than Black. If that's something positive or negative, that is up to you. But for me, it's just different. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, make sure you leave a like. It really helps me a lot. And as always, a huge thank you for our new members. Son Goku, George, not Russell, Samuel Rodriguez, and these. I wonder what that means. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.